Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's deep dive is based on a request focused on 25 plus B2 level vocabulary on animals.
Ah, yes. A really good list.
Exactly. So let's unpack this. What we have here is a fantastic stack of B2 level vocabulary focused entirely on animals, conservation, and behavior.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to stress this isn't just about memorizing definitions, is it?
Not at all. It's really about giving you the verbal dexterity, the ability to discuss complex natural phenomena with, confidence and precision.
That is absolutely the shift you need at this B2 level. We're moving past simple words like dog or cat and into concepts. Our goal in this deep dive is to transform a simple word list into, a toolkit.
A toolkit. I like that.
Yeah, a toolkit for articulating ecological challenges, describing intricate animal adaptations, and just engaging in more sophisticated conversations about our relationship with the natural world.
I love that framing. We're basically providing these descriptive expressions that bridge simple language and, detailed biological description. The ability to use these terms appropriately, that's what signals real fluency.
It really does.
So let's jump straight into the fundamentals. How do we, as scientists and speakers, even begin to classify life? Where do we start?
Right. To understand any animal's role, you really have to first define its place in the biological hierarchy. And the most fundamental grouping, the absolute bedrock of biology, is the species.
Species, okay.
By definition, this is a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring. That's the key, fertile offspring. It is the basic unit of life, essentially.
And what strikes me immediately is the contrasting scale at which this word operates. I mean, you use it in such different contexts.
How so?
Well, on a global policy level, we use species to define huge conservation challenges. We talk about the giant panda as an endangered species native to China. The focus there is massive, right? The global survival, political action.
That's a perfect example. It's about the survival of the entire group. But then you can zoom right in, and the term is used in the context of pure, almost microscopic discovery.
Like finding a new bug somewhere.
Exactly. A researcher in an unexplored rainforest canopy finds a new beetle. And the announcement is that they've discovered a novel insect species previously unknown to science. The definition, a distinct fertile group, it stays the same.
Right.
But the context shifts entirely from, as you said, macro policy down to microtaxonomy.
And this applies to behavior too, doesn't it? When we talk about how different bird species migrate south for winter, we're grouping them by these shared intrinsic behavioral patterns, things that are passed down genetically.
Precisely. They share that migratory instinct as a species. So yeah, it's an incredibly versatile and important term for B2 usage. You need to be comfortable using it across these different scales.
Okay, fundamental unit, species. Got it. What's next moving up the ladder?
Well, moving up the classification ladder, we arrive at a very large and familiar class known as mammals.
Ah, mammals.
Indeed, including ourselves. These are the warm-blooded animals, characterized by three critical traits. They possess fur or hair at some stage, they regulate their temperature internally, the term is endothermic, and perhaps most famously, the females nurse their young with milk. That trait is called lactation.
And the diversity within the mammal class is just astounding, isn't it? It forces us to really rethink our assumptions about what a typical animal looks like.
Absolutely. Think about it.
Well, the most enormous creature on Earth, the blue whale, is a mammal. That completely throws a wrench into the simple notion that mammals are just land creatures with 4 legs and fur.
It does, and that's the power of sticking to that core definition. Despite living its entire life in the ocean, the whale shares that fundamental warm-blooded physiology and, crucially, relies on lactation to feed its young. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have humans. We classify ourselves as intelligent mammals, and that classification links us directly to the rest of the animal kingdom. It reminds us that we share these deep physiological connections with everything from a tiny bat to a huge elephant.
Okay, so mammals, warm-blooded, hair or fur, milk. What's the big contrast then?
Well, we get a really stark contrast when we look at the class of reptiles.
Okay. Snakes, lizards, turtles.
Exactly. If mammals are defined by endothermy, internal heat, and hair, reptiles are characterized primarily by being cold-blooded, or more accurately, ectothermic. And they typically have scaly skin.
Ectothermic, that's the better term than cold-blooded.
It is, yes. Ectothermy is the key insight here. At a B2 level, it's good to know the more sophisticated term. Cold-blooded can be a bit misleading. They do regulate their temperature. They just have to do it using external sources like the sun.
Oh, right.
And interestingly, the Latin root for reptile is reper, which means to creep or to crawl. So the name itself immediately informs us about their typical way of moving around.
And their behavior then is completely dictated by this need for external heat regulation, isn't it? Like snakes, which are common reptiles you find in deserts. They have to adapt their whole life cycle around the sun.
Indeed. A defining behavioral trait really of almost all reptiles is the necessity to bask in the sun for warmth. They need that solar energy to become active, to digest food, to move efficiently.
Which is totally different from a mammal.
Completely different. A mammal, like us, generates its own heat internally. Furthermore, many ancient reptiles, like turtles and crocodiles, they give us this incredible window into evolutionary history stretching back hundreds of millions of years. So this fundamental difference in energy regulation, internal versus external, is absolutely central to understanding where and how any animal survives.
Okay, that sets the biological foundation really clearly. Species, mammals, reptiles, the basic categories. Now, let's maybe transition conceptually. Once we know how to classify life, the next natural question seems to be, how do we humans choose to interact with it?
A crucial question.
Yeah, and this brings us straight into the dynamics of domestication, farming, control, our impact.
This is definitely where the distinction between wild and managed life becomes critical. We use the word domestic to describe an animal that has been tamed, bred, and fundamentally adapted over generations to live alongside humans.
It's more than just a pet then.
Oh, much more. It implies a long, often mutual evolutionary history of cohabitation. Think about dogs thousands of years alongside humans.
Right. And the purpose of domestic animals seems split, doesn't it? Between affection and utility. Like, domestic cats are often primarily affectionate companions, totally reliant on us.
True.
But then you have the whole agricultural side. Farmers raising domestic sheep, specifically for their high-quality wool, or large-scale farming of domestic chickens purely for eggs or meat. The same linguistic term, domestic, covers both the beloved pet curled up on the sofa and the economic resource out in the field.
And that economic and functional focus leads us directly to a really crucial noun-verb duality, which is key for B2 understanding. The word breed.
Okay. Breed as a noun and to breed as a verb.
Exactly. As a noun, a breed is a specific lineage or variety within a species. It's been cultivated and selected by people, often over many generations, for particular desirable attributes.
And for the B2 user, understanding this human-driven selection part is really key, I think. A Labrador breed of dog isn't some random occurrence in nature, right?
Not at all.
It was selectively developed for its friendly disposition, its intelligence, its innate affinity for water retrieval, things humans wanted.
Precisely. Or similarly, dairy farmers meticulously choose the best cattle breed, like Holstein or Jersey, specifically for maximum milk production or milk fat content. The selection process is purposeful, always aimed at optimizing some kind of human benefit, whether it's temperament in a pet or yield in livestock.
Okay, so that's the noun, a specific type, like a Labrador breed. What about the verb to breed?
Now, when we use breed as a verb to breed, it's the actual act of controlling or guiding reproduction to produce offspring with those desired traits. And this concept, the act of breeding, has two major kind of high-level applications: commercial and conservation.
Right, so in commercial farming, the verb to breed is all about efficiency and quality control. A farmer breeds poultry for faster growth, or breeds sheep to ensure consistently high-quality wool. The whole goal is predictable, optimized yield for the market.
Correct. But then the conservation world flips that purpose entirely. Zoos and wildlife centers actively breed endangered animals.
Like pandas again, or tigers.
Exactly. But not for human consumption or use. It's purely to increase the population numbers of a struggling species and hopefully fight the threat of extinction. So the same verb, to breed, encompasses both the, controlled environment of a modern industrial farm and the incredibly delicate, highly managed process of conservation breeding programs aiming for reintroduction into the wild.
That's a great contrast.
And we can contrast this managed approach with the natural cycle, where wildcats, for example, typically breed seasonally, often triggered by the abundance of food supply in the spring. It's driven by nature, not human goals.
Okay, so managing and selecting. This inherently involves systems of control, doesn't it? Which brings us to some vocabulary about physical restraint, starting with to chain.
To chain. It means securing an object or, in this context, an animal using a series of connected metal links, a chain.
We probably immediately think of pet safety, right? Maybe briefly chaining a dog in the yard to prevent it from wandering off the property.
That's a common use, yes. But at a higher level, thinking B2, the word is also used frequently in industrial and agricultural contexts. Workers might chain heavy loads securely onto flatbed trucks for safe transport.
Or a farmer.
A farmer might chain the heavy gates of a massive livestock enclosure shut to ensure security for hundreds of animals. The core meaning remains constant, securing movement or preventing escape through the use of mechanical links.
Okay. A more complex form of interaction, maybe with more ethical weight, is to trap.
Yes, to trap. This involves capturing an animal using some kind of device or mechanism that's specifically designed to hold it. And as you say, this word carries significant moral and often legal weight, depending on the context.
Historically, the negative connotation often dominates, I think. Hunters setting lethal traps for foxes or beavers to obtain their fur.
That's certainly part of its history and still happens. However, the B2 user must also understand the positive and sometimes critical applications. In urban areas, for instance, animal control often uses humane traps.
The live traps.
Yes, live traps, designed not to injure the animal. They use these traps to safely capture stray cats, for example, for sterilization programs, trap-neuter return, or for rehoming efforts.
And crucially, trapping is also pretty indispensable in biological research, isn't it?
Absolutely vital. Scientists routinely set non-lethal traps, mist nets for birds, or small box traps for mammals for things like banding, tagging, or taking health samples. This data collection.
On migration, health, population size.
Exactly. It's critical to conservation efforts, monitoring endangered species, understanding ecosystems, and it's entirely reliant on the practice of trapping. So it transitions from just an archaic hunting technique to a vital, modern scientific methodology.
Okay, now all these human interactions, from domestication and selective breeding to habitat use and maybe sometimes trapping, they have, unfortunately, led to the ultimate irreversible conclusion defined by the word extinct.
Extinct. A powerful and final word. It means that a species of animal or plant has vanished entirely from the earth. There are no living members left. Gone forever.
When we talk about extinct, we certainly acknowledge the historical natural extinction events. The dinosaurs disappearing millions of years ago due to, well, whatever it was, asteroid impact, climate shifts.
Yeah, extinction is a natural process over geological time.
But the contemporary conversation, the one that really requires this B2 vocabulary for policy discussions, for understanding the news, it's centered on the human connection, isn't it? Our sources are pretty clear. Human activity through things like habitat destruction, pollution, climate change now drives many, many animals to become extinct at an unprecedented rate.
This is the critical relevance today. When you read news articles about the Amazon rainforest burning, or coral reefs bleaching, or the Arctic ice melting, the plea to save species before they go extinct relies entirely on the audience understanding the sheer gravity of this final irreversible status.
It's not just a definition anymore.
Not all. It becomes a statement about biological crisis, about resource management failure, and often about policy failure. Understanding extinct is crucial for engaging in those important global conversations.
This seems like a natural transition point.
Yeah.
You've talked about classification and the human interface. What about animals just living their lives in the wild? That leads us to section 3, ecosystems, habitat, and how animals behave out there.
Right. How they structure their own lives, define their space, and adapt to survive without human intervention. We can begin with the concept of defined space, territory.
Territory. Okay.
This isn't just the area where an animal lives. It's an area occupied by an individual animal, or maybe a social group, that is actively defended against others, usually of the same species.
Defended. So it's more than just a home range.
Much more. It's a domain they consider vital for survival, for access to food, water, shelter, mates, and they'll actively try to keep rivals out.
And the defense of that territory, it's often highly ritualized, isn't it? It's not always outright fighting.
Often not, no. Lions, for example, don't always fight to the death over territory. They mark their territory using scent urine spraying or through vocalizations like roaring. These act as clear warning signs to potential intruders. The space is taken, avoid conflict.
And we also see huge differences in scale, right? A small songbird might fiercely defend a tiny nesting territory, maybe just a few square meters, during mating season, whereas apex predators like wolves might patrol absolutely massive territories, sometimes covering hundreds of square miles.
That's right. The size of the territory often relates directly to the resources needed and the animal's ability to patrol and defend it. And the necessity of patrolling such large domains, especially for predators like wolves, is often linked to the next term, pack.
Ah, the wolf pack.
Exactly. Pack is a specific collective noun. It refers to a group of social animals, particularly wolves or wild dogs, living and hunting together. It strongly emphasizes cooperative survival and often involves a fairly rigid social hierarchy.
And the insight here, I think, is the cooperation. A wolf pack hunting down a large deer in a snowy forest that demonstrates highly coordinated strategies that a single wolf probably couldn't manage on its own.
Absolutely. They rely on shared communication, subtle body language, perhaps vocalizations, and defined roles within the pack during the hunt. It's a sophisticated social structure built for efficiency.
Is pack only used for wolves, though?
Primarily, or for similar needs like African wild dogs. But, the term pack can sometimes be applied more loosely to less formalized groups, like maybe a pack of stray dogs roaming city streets together.
Okay.
But linguistically, and this is useful for B2, the speaker can also leverage the metaphor. We talk about a pack of lies, or maybe a pack of journalists surrounding someone.
Right, implying a tight group, maybe aggressive or opportunistic.
Exactly. So the word implies this tight, potentially aggressive, or maybe just highly coordinated grouping, extending its usefulness beyond pure biology.
So when we aggregate all these creatures, the lone hunter defending its territory, the cooperative pack, all the other animals out there, we use the collective term wildlife, right?
Yes, wildlife. This encompasses basically all wild, untamed creatures, the fauna living in their natural environment, not domesticated.
And the primary application we hear this in is wildlife conservation.
Without a doubt. National parks, nature reserves. They are created specifically to protect diverse wildlife populations and their habitats from human encroachment, hunting, or development.
It also governs our ethical relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're constantly advised when we're in nature to observe wildlife from a safe distance, to respect their space, recognize their inherent autonomy and wild status. Don't feed the bears.
Exactly. Don't interfere. And the tragedy, of course, is when urban expansion or agriculture encroaches on natural habitats, resulting in significant conflict between human development and local wildlife, often leading to decline or displacement of those animals.
Okay, let's focus a bit more on adaptation now by looking at some specific animals from the vocabulary list.
Yeah.
Starting with the big cats, maybe the cheetah. What defines the cheetah?
Speed. Singular, extraordinary speed. The cheetah is hands down the fastest land mammal on Earth. It can reach speeds up to, 75 miles per hour in short bursts.
Incredible.
Its entire physical structure, long legs, flexible spine, lightweight body, is specialized for this burst speed. And a crucial detail, really good for advanced discussion, is about its claws.
Oh, what about them?
Unlike other big cats like leopards or lions, the cheetah has non-retractable or semi-retractable claws, more like a dog's.
Really? Why?
They function like running spikes, like cleats on an athlete's shoe. They provide essential traction for those incredible high-speed sprints when they're chasing down gazelles or other fast prey across the savannah.
Wow, that detail about traction is brilliant because it contrasts so sharply with the next cat on the list, the leopard. The leopard is also a large, powerful wildcat, but its survival strategy is completely different. It's centered on stealth, not speed.
Absolutely right. The leopard's strategy is pure ambush predator. Its spotted coat, those beautiful rosettes, provides near-perfect camouflage, allowing it to hide in dappled sunlight under trees or in rocky areas and then surprise its prey.
So it needs different skills than the cheetah.
Very different skills. Leopards are exceptional climbers. They often drag their kills, sometimes animals heavier than themselves, high up into tree branches to keep them safe from scavengers like hyenas or even lions. And they're also surprisingly strong swimmers, quite comfortable in water, unlike many other cats. Their vulnerability, though, despite these adaptable skills, comes largely from poaching. That beautiful camouflaged coat is unfortunately highly prized.
Right. Okay. Moving from the savanna cats to really specialized environments. The polar bear. This has to be the perfect case study in environmental adaptation. This huge white bear living exclusively in the harsh, icy Arctic.
It truly is. The polar bear survival is intrinsically completely linked to the Arctic sea ice. They are essentially marine mammals in many ways, adapted specifically to hunt seals, their primary food source, which surface through breathing holes in the ice or rest on the frozen surface.
And their adaptations are obvious, the thick fur, the blubber.
Yes, incredible insulation against the extreme cold.
Yeah.
But this very specialization makes them tragically vulnerable today. The polar bear has become the global visual icon of climate change.
Because the ice is melting.
Exactly, because the shrinking Arctic sea ice directly destroys their hunting platform, their habitat, They are a true indicator species. Their struggles tell us about the health of the entire Arctic ecosystem and the impact of global warming.
Such a powerful symbol. Another resident of those colder northern regions, though maybe not quite as extreme as the Arctic ice, is the reindeer, a type of deer known for those large branching antlers.
Reindeer, or caribou as they're known in North America. Their primary adaptation to cold is also that remarkably thick fur coat, which allows them to thrive in tundra and boreal forest environments.
What's particularly fascinating about reindeer, I think, is the sheer scale of their movement.
Oh, absolutely. Vast herds of reindeer undertake some of the longest seasonal migrations of any land mammal, traveling huge distances across the tundra to find food sources, particularly lichens in winter.
And culturally, they hold immense significance too, right? Especially for indigenous peoples in the Arctic.
Immense significance, particularly among groups like the Sami people of Northern Europe, who have traditionally relied on reindeer herding for transportation, meat, milk, hides. Their entire culture is interwoven with the reindeer, and of course, globally, their image pulling Santa's sleigh is universally recognized, showing how wildlife can become deeply ingrained in human mythology and folklore.
From cold climates to, maybe, intelligence. Let's shift focus to the ape, defined generally as a large, tailless primate like chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans. Apes are so often the subject of complex cognitive studies.
Yes, and the linguistic leap here for B2 speakers is recognizing and being able to discuss their cognitive abilities. Behavioral studies consistently show apes, particularly chimpanzees, using tools, using stones to crack nuts, using sticks to fish for termites.
Demonstrating real problem solving.
High-level problem solving, yes. And social learning by watching others. While we might romanticize them swinging through the jungle canopy, the harsh real-world focus now is on the immediate threat they face from habitat destruction, mainly deforestation, and the illegal bushmeat trade.
So conservation parks become critical.
Absolutely essential for protecting these highly intelligent, closely related species from potentially becoming extinct in the wild.
Okay, moving to creatures may be defined more by subtlety or night activity. We have the owl. This bird of prey, that raptor, distinguished by its round face and those huge forward-facing eyes. Hunts mainly at night, right?
Primarily nocturnal, yes. Hunting smaller mammals, insects, other birds under the cover of darkness. And the owl's adaptations are just a biological marvel.
The eyes, obviously.
The large eyes maximize light collection, giving them exceptional night vision, far better than ours. But perhaps even more impressive is their silent flight.
Ah, right. You don't hear them coming.
Almost never. Their specialized wing feathers have soft, comb-like edges that break up the airflow turbulence, muffling the sound. This allows them to approach prey completely undetected. And that distinctive sound they do make, the hoot, echoing from a branch at midnight, often carries significant cultural weight too. The owl is frequently used as a symbol of wisdom, mystery, and quiet observation in many cultures.
Okay, finally in this section, two very different examples of sort of everyday survival strategies. The squirrel and the tortoise. The squirrel seems to be all about frantic energy, rapid-fire agility, and meticulous preparation.
That's a great description. Watch a squirrel in a park or forest. It's a master of three-dimensional movement, scampering effortlessly up vertical tree bark, using that bushy tail not just for warmth, but crucially for balance when leaping.
Making these huge jumps between branches.
Incredible leaps. And all this agility supports its primary survival instinct, especially for winter. It's caching behavior. Squirrels, many species anyway, engage in what's called scatter hoarding.
Hiding nuts everywhere.
Burying hundreds, maybe thousands of nuts and seeds in many different locations. They don't remember all of them, of course, but they find enough to survive the winter. And this forgotten cache actually plays a vital role in the ecosystem by helping to plant new trees, so they're accidental foresters.
Ah, accidental foresters. I like that. And then the absolute polar opposite. The slow, deliberate, measured tortoise. This is terrestrial reptile, right? A land-dwelling turtle, basically.
Yeah.
And its defining characteristic is that big, hard, domed shell.
That shell is essentially its entire defense system. When a tortoise feels threatened, it retracts its head, legs, and tail almost completely into the shell, relying on that ancient bony structure for protection against predators.
Seems effective.
Very effective against most natural predators. But perhaps their most astounding feature isn't the shell, but their longevity.
They live a really long time.
An incredibly long time. Certain species of giant tortoise, like those on the Galapagos Islands, can live well over 100 years, some maybe even approaching 200 years, making them among the longest living creatures known on the planet. And it's this characteristic, this slow, steady persistence, combined with their longevity, that's probably why the tortoise has cemented its place in moral fables, like the famous story of the tortoise racing the hare, representing perseverance winning out over speed.
Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, that detailed look at specific animals and their adaptations moves us very logically into our final section, section 4.
Oh, yeah.
The specifics of the animal body itself, its mechanics, the sounds it makes, and how it reproduces. This is where we focus on those vivid, tangible details, the things you can almost touch or observe very closely.
Exactly. The building blocks of the animal. We can start with a feature that uniquely defines birds, the class Aves, the feather.
Feathers, okay.
This light, soft, yet strong keratinous structure covering a bird's body. It's really a masterpiece of biological engineering, and it serves a crucial dual purpose, functionality and display.
Functionality meaning flight, obviously, but also insulation.
Absolutely. Feathers provide the aerodynamic surfaces needed for flight in most birds, but they are also superb insulators, trapping a layer of air close to the bird's body to protect it against cold weather, much like a down jacket.
And the display function.
That's where they often become spectacular. Brightly colored, sometimes iridescent feathers are used in elaborate courtship dances and displays, especially by males, to attract mates. Think of a peacock's tail. This is a classic example of sexual selection driving appearance.
Right. And humans use them too, don't they?
We do. Collected feathers are used for things like fly fishing lures, stuffing pillows and duvets, down feathers, and in traditional crafts or ceremonial costumes in many cultures.
Okay, so beneath the feather, or for mammals, the fur, we often find the paw. How do we define that specifically?
The paw is generally understood as the foot of a mammal, particularly carnivores like dogs, cats, bears, raccoons, characterized by soft, fleshy pads on the underside, often covered in fur, and usually equipped with nails or claws.
And the paw is central to how these animals interact with their environment.
Completely central. The actions related to the paw are highly illustrative of the animal's behavior and intent. We might see a domestic cat extending its paw gently to playfully bat at a dangling toy or a laser pointer dot, showing curiosity.
Or in the wild.
In the wild, distinct paw prints left in soft mud or snow provide crucial tracking signs for hunters trying to follow prey, or for scientists monitoring animal movements. And in a hunting context itself, the image of a large bear's powerful paw swiping at a migrating salmon in a river, that's a potent image of raw survival instinct in action.
Powerful indeed. Moving from physical structures like paws to chemical defenses, we encounter venom.
Venom, yes. This is a complex, poisonous substance. It's produced by specialized glands in certain animals, most famously snakes like vipers and cobras, but also spiders, scorpions, jellyfish, even some insects like certain ants or wasps. And it's used specifically either to subdue prey or to defend against threats.
And the delivery mechanism is really key for a B2 description, isn't it? It's not just being poisonous if eaten, like some plants or frogs.
Correct. Venom has to be injected through fangs, stingers, barbs. A snake, for example, rapidly injects venom through hollow fangs, which can paralyze the nervous system or destroy tissue, killing its prey swiftly. Spiders use tiny fangs to inject venom that liquefies the insides of insects for consumption.
And scientifically, understanding the venom itself is complex.
Very complex. Venom is usually a cocktail of different proteins and enzymes. Scientists analyze whether it contains neurotoxins that affect the nervous system or hemotoxins that affect the blood and tissues. This composition determines how dangerous it is and how it works.
But there's an upside to studying it.
A massive upside. The study of venom peptides, the active components, is actually a huge field in medical research. It's leading directly to the development of new medications for humans, treating conditions ranging from chronic pain to high blood pressure and blood clotting disorders. Some components of snake venom, for instance, are used in drugs to prevent heart attacks. And medically, of course, the direct countermeasure, antivenom, which is often produced using venom itself, is a critical lifesaver for people bitten or stung, reinforcing the need for this precise vocabulary in emergency situations.
Okay, from chemical weapons to sounds. Next up is vocalization, specifically for dogs and their relatives.
To bark.
To bark, yes, that short, often loud, sharp, characteristic vocalization made by a dog or sometimes other canids like wolves or foxes, though their barks might sound different.
And the contexts for to bark seem to communicate a whole spectrum of meaning, don't they? It's not just noise.
Not at all, it's communication. A dog barks repeatedly and loudly at a stranger approaching the house door that clearly functions as an alarm or a warning behavior. Intruder alert.
Right.
Conversely, a litter of young puppies might bark playfully, yipping and yapping during a game of chase with each other, clearly expressing excitement and social interaction.
Then in the working dog world. In the working world, a hunting hound, like a beagle, might bark loudly and continuously, a specific type of bark called baying, to signal to the human hunter that they have located or cornered the quarry. This illustrates communication within a human-animal working partnership or even a pack dynamic if hunting together.
Vocalization often changes, or is maybe more noticeable, under conditions of confinement, which brings us to the term cage.
Cage. Generally defined as a structure, often a framework made of metal bars or wires, sometimes glass like an aquarium or terrarium, used to confine animals or birds.
And the purpose really determines the context and our perception of the cage, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A small, barren wire cage severely restricts movement and can be seen as cruel, picturing a bird fluttering helplessly inside a tiny, confined space. That's a negative image.
But in zoos,
However, in modern accredited zoos and wildlife parks, large, spacious enclosures are sometimes still referred to as cages, or more often now, habitats or enclosures. These are designed ideally to mimic the animal's natural territory as closely as possible, providing enrichment and serving a conservation and educational role. The ethics are complex.
and there's always the risk.
There's always the potential danger, of course, where insufficient security or accidental damage leads to an animal escaping from its cage or enclosure, which often creates a public safety concern or a crisis for the institution.
Okay, the final trio of terms focuses squarely on the reproductive cycle, starting with the verb to lay.
To lay. This verb specifically describes the action of a female bird, insect, fish, amphibian, or reptile producing eggs from its body. Oviposit is a more technical term, sometimes used for insects or fish spawning.
So commercially, this is straightforward. A hen in a farm lays eggs daily or near daily in her hen house for collection.
That's the most common context we encounter. But in the wild, the process of laying eggs can be incredibly dramatic and visually striking. Think of sea turtles hauling themselves with great effort onto a sandy beach at night to lay their large clutch of leathery eggs in a deep hole they've dug.
Or a bird in spring.
Or a colorful songbird meticulously constructing a nest and then laying beautifully patterned, often camouflaged eggs within it. This process is absolutely fundamental to the life cycle of all non-mammalian animals that reproduce this way.
And that process, laying eggs, usually requires the prior step to mate.
Yes, to mate. This verb refers to the sexual act of animals coming together, a male and a female, typically for the purpose of breeding and reproduction. It's the vital biological necessity for species perpetuation through sexual reproduction.
And the timing and context vary hugely across the animal kingdom.
Hugely. The timing is often critical. Many animals, like most birds in temperate zones, only mate seasonally, often in the spring when warming temperatures and increasing food resources are optimal for raising young. Fish, conversely, might mate in massive spawning events, with thousands of individuals gathering in specific aquatic environments to release eggs and sperm simultaneously. And again, in conservation, sophisticated programs are often developed to encourage endangered animals to mate successfully within zoos or breeding centers.
Sometimes involving quite complex interventions.
Sometimes involving complex techniques like artificial insemination or carefully managed introductions based on genetic studbooks, all to ensure genetic diversity and the best chance of successful reproduction for the species' survival.
Okay. And if the animal involved is specifically a canine, the result of that mating and gestation is often a puppy.
A puppy, yes, that term refers specifically to a young dog, typically one under a year old. It represents the juvenile developmental stage of a domestic canine.
And the puppy stage is really crucial for their development, isn't it? We talk a lot about puppy behavior.
Absolutely crucial. We describe their typically playful, energetic, and sometimes clumsy behaviors, the puppy chasing its own tail in circles, or nipping gently but persistently at its litter mates or human hands as it learns bite inhibition.
And for owners.
For owners, the emphasis during the puppy stage is heavily on early training, house training, basic commands, and critically, socialization. Exposing the puppy positively to various sights, sounds, people, and other animals ensures it develops the good habits and stable temperament required to become a well-adjusted, well-behaved adult domestic pet. It really rounds out that cycle from maybe controlled breeding to raising the young for affectionate companionship.
Wow. We have truly covered the full spectrum here, haven't we?
Right.
From the absolute basics of classification in the animal kingdom right through to the specifics of reproduction and the linguistic tools needed to discuss it all.
I think so. We established that foundational classification species, mammal, reptile, then explored that intense, often complex human interface through concepts like domestication, selective breeding, the use of chains or traps, and sadly, the irreversible tragedy of a species becoming extinct.
Yeah, the human impact is unavoidable in these discussions.
It really is. And then we dove into the complex world of survival in the wild, defining crucial ecological concepts like territory and social structures like the pack.
And we looked at those amazing specialized adaptations through examples like the superfast cheetah, the stealthy leopard, the Arctic-bound polar bear, the migratory reindeer, the tool-using ape, the silent owl, the busy squirrel, and the incredibly long-lived tortoise.
Exactly. And by detailing the functional beauty of a bird's feather, the utility of a mammal's paw, the dangerous efficacy of venom, the communicative nature of a dog's bark, the implications of a cage, and the fundamental processes of laying eggs and mating leading to offspring like a puppy.
You should now really have the B2 linguistic capacity to describe animal behavior, biology, habitats, and our interactions with them with, hopefully, much more vivid detail and authoritative context.
That's the goal, moving beyond the basics into nuanced description.
Absolutely. Now, this entire deep dive focused on applying this advanced B2 vocabulary to real-world biology, ecology, and conservation efforts. Before we wrap up completely, maybe we can leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. Our discussion has frequently utilized human-assigned terminology. Words like territory, pack, instinct, even domestic. This raises, I think, an important question, maybe about the boundaries of our own knowledge.
Go on.
Does the very human act of defining, categorizing, and labeling animal behaviors, saying a bird defends its territory, or a bear acts purely on instinct, or even calling an animal wild versus domestic, does this labeling fundamentally change, or perhaps even diminish, our understanding of the animal's own complex, maybe even conscious, experience of its world? Are our words limiting our view?
That's a deep one. How does the human definition change the meaning for the animal itself? Something to ponder, certainly, the next time you encounter a creature in the wild or even your own pet.
Indeed. Well, if this wild ride through the animal kingdom and its vocabulary excited you, and you want more deep dives into fascinating subjects like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us on the Learn English Lab.